We hit the position stopwatch to set a keyframe there, and maybe go over the last keyframe, so maybe to like 4 seconds, set a keyframe there, and then go over to where the anticipation keyframe starts, and let's set a keyframe there. And then let's move over to the middle frame, bring this all the way up. Let's easy ease all of these, and let's just set them all to 75%. And you can do that with the Flow plugin just by double clicking on any of these presets that you saved. Now I'm thinking we should just bring this over so that it all lines up perfectly. And also even this one, maybe push it into when the rotation starts to happen. Let's preview that one more time. Okay, so I think we're done with this logo animation. Let's now move on to the second one. Moving on, let's take a look at the Amazon logo. Now I'm gonna cheat a bit and go back to the original comp, which is right here. And I'm gonna copy all of these letters, which is the alphabet, and then go back to the comp that I just created and create a new text layer, and let's just paste it there. And by the way, I'm using the ITC Oficina font, which is the font that Amazon uses. Now let's create a background real quick. Go up to layer, new solid, name this background, make it black. Bring it to the bottom. And we can't quite see the original Amazon word, and that's because it is black, but it doesn't matter since we're not going to be using it for now. Now, one quick thing to point out is that this font that we're using, let's just duplicate it real quick. Bring it over here and type in Amazon. And let's turn this off so we can see it. Maybe make the font black. By the way, the composition background is white. And in order to change that, you can go over to composition settings and change it down here. So you can make it whatever you want. But anyway, what I was going to show you is if we scale this up and just see the comparison, even though it's the same font, it doesn't quite look the same, and that's because they've gone ahead and customized this. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you can actually customize your fonts inside of After Effects, and the way you can do that is by simply clicking on a text layer and going over to create shapes from text, for example, and then you can go in here, hit G to bring up the points, and then select them and adjust them accordingly. So you can see this A letter here. It doesn't have this extra corner point. So we can delete that and select this one, maybe bring it over like that. But in this case, we're gonna skip it just for the sake of the tutorial. So let's delete these shapes, bring back the Amazon text, maybe delete that, turn off the original logo, and let's turn the background back on. And let's now get on with animating these alphabet letters. First off, let's Control-Alt-Home to center the anchor point to the text layer, and then Control-Home to center it to the composition. Next up, we're gonna go down here to the text property for this text layer, and click the arrow here on the animate to add an animator. And in this case, we're looking for the scale, and then zoom in here. You can see these points that pop up. These are gonna be very important. So let's just first go over to more options, and this is where we can control those points. So this is the grouping alignment, and I'm looking at maybe the I letter. So let's go over to the horizontal by 9% maybe, and vertically it should be fine. So let's leave it at 0. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because when we scale up and down, you can see it scales up and down from that point. So if we move it vertically and bring it to the point at the top, for example, you can see it scales from that point. But in this case, we want it to be right there at the base of each letter. Now let's go back to the beginning. And before we move on with the animation, let's just adjust the tracking, so the gaps between each letter. And we can do that by using this value up here, or you can add an animator, which is tracking, and you can just increase that. But in this case, we're not gonna be animating the tracking, so we'll just use this value up here. So let's delete that. Oh, one important thing when you're adjusting the gaps or the tracking is the paragraph. So if it is centered, when you increase the gap, it increases from the center, whereas if it's left aligned, it increases from the left. And in this case, we're gonna set it to left align because we're gonna be moving from left side to the right side. Now let's increase this as much as we want. Maybe double click on it, increase the border of all these letters. Hit S to bring up the scale. Scale it up, bring it all the way at the middle. So we want the A letter to be at the middle of our comp at the beginning. And maybe bring our anchor point right here at the A letter. So when we scale it up, it scales from that point and our A letter stays centered. Now we can move forward with the scale of these letters. So let's go down to the text, go down to the animator. Now what we need to do in order for these letters to scale up one by one is to set these to 0 at first, then go up to range selector, and by animating the start value, and we can't really see it right now, but let's just scale it down just so we can see it. You can see if we increase this, it shifts the scale, and therefore every letter comes in one by one. So what we want to do is set a keyframe at the beginning, move forward by say 7 seconds, and bring this all the way up to 100%. Now let's scale this back up to 1000% as we had it before. Center it to the comp. And what we want to